our investigation concluded it revealed is that the prosecutors that resigned from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota a few days after the shooting of Renee Good, they had already been alarmed by what had happened in December with the launch of Operation Metro Surge. And one of the reasons Bavino was so mad is because the prosecutors had been seeing and filing cases against protesters. The immigration agents accused them of assault on federal officers, or AFOs. And then time after time, the claims that the immigration agents were making were proven to have been lies over and over. So they did, pull it back in terms of how many of these charges they were bringing against protesters, unless there was evidence. But I want you to take a listen to one of the prosecutors who resigned on January 13th. This is a guy named Tom Calhoun Lopez, who has been a prosecutor for years and years, was in the Army before that, talking about what it was like watching Operation Metro Surge in December.
Beginning in December, the administration had an unprecedented wave of immigration enforcements in the Twin Cities. But Operation Metro Surge was different. From the beginning, it was conducted in a paramilitary posture. Hundreds of agents were flooding in from out of district. They weren't familiar with Minnesota communities. They were heavily armed. They were in masks. They patrolled in combat gear. And their ethos was of a military occupying force. Their mission seemed to be to subdue the state and to bring it to heel.
You know from occupation because you're a veteran.
That's correct. I deployed to Iraq twice, once as a field artillery officer and once as an Army judge advocate.
And it reminded you of that kind of occupation?
It did. Through two different deployments, I got to see what a military occupation looked like. And unfortunately, Operation Metro Surge had all the hallmarks of a military occupation.
So that was the setting. And then in early January, a Homeland Security investigations agent told the prosecutors and others, upon hearing that Bavino and Border Patrol were coming to join this surge of 3,000 individuals in the streets of Minnesota, and their concern was the Border Patrol, these guys, they guard the southern border. There's no backup for 50 miles. They think of themselves as the last line of defense. They get away with a lot. Them coming here is a bad idea. Bavino coming here is a bad idea. And the quote was, someone's going to get killed. That was in early January. January 7th, Renee Good is killed. And then Bavino calls, mad about the lack of prosecutions against protesters, says a whole bunch of stuff about putting down the city, says some anti-Semitic things the prosecutors believe against the U.S. attorney, Danny Rosen. And then after that call, one of the prosecutors says, they're going to kill someone else. And then a few days later came the Alex Preddy killing.
That is stunning what that prosecutor said to you. And when a lot of people say that who are critical of what happened in Minneapolis, they would be dismissed as hyperbolic. But he's someone who knows, right? So he's bringing sort of a really interesting perspective to that. Before we came to this segment, we were looking at what is happening and has happened in Maine and looking at what's unfolding there, what's unfolded in Houston. Has there been a change to what immigration officials are doing in how they're using their tactics?
The accusations from the prosecutors, and just keep in mind, we're not talking about a bunch of hippie communists, right? These are prosecutors. These are people who join the government, want to lock away bad guys and keep communities safe. And the accusations, the impression they got was, one, these tactics were over-aggressive and actually counterproductive. Right. They were not going after the worst of the worst. They were going after protesters, and they were trying to start a riot, Bavino and others, in the view of these prosecutors. And two, there was a policy about lying. The immigration agents were lying about what happened. There was this other case in between the two shootings. You might remember these Venezuelans that were fired upon by an ICE agent. They were charged, and then it turned out the ICE agent had been lying. He claimed he had been attacked by a shovel and a broom, and the video evidence came, and Danny Rosen, the U.S. attorney, had to withdraw the charges with prejudice, and that ICE agent has now been charged with lying and assault. It is the policy to lie about these things, and we've seen now in Texas and in Biddeford, Maine, claims made by immigration agents that are contradicted by witnesses, contradicted by video in many cases, and they're not going after the worst of the worst. They're not going after people who have guns or